CNN senior legal analyst Ellie Honig joins me now. And Ellie, look, the judge did offer the former vice president some protections about what he has to share about what happened on January 6th when he was operating, as Evan noted, as the president of the Senate. But he did have to testify about his conversations with former President Trump but does he have to testify about those conversations leading up to the attack? What do you make of this actual decision here?
Well, Phil, on balance, this is a real win for prosecutors, for the special counsel, because now they will get to question the former Vice President Mike Pence under oath about virtually everything that they'll need to ask him about. Now, they cannot ask him about what he did on January 6th itself because he was acting as vice president, as Senate president. So that's walled off under, as Evan described, the speech and debate clause. But they're going to get to question him under oath about everything leading up to January 6th, including key meetings that he had one-on-one with Donald Trump in the days leading up to January 6th, where they discussed this plot, where I would want to ask Mike Pence, what did Donald Trump tell you? What did he ask you to do? Those are crucial conversations. Now, Pence and or Trump can appeal this to the Court of Appeals. I don't think they're likely to get a different outcome. I think this is likely to stick as the result, and it's a win for prosecutors.
You know, Evan laid out, and you noted on some of them, that there's a series of questions we still need answers to in terms of timing, what the actual process would be going forward. One of the questions I had is can the former vice president still plead the fifth to avoid answering questions that aren't walled off here?
So legally and constitutionally, absolutely yes. Mike Pence, like any person, can claim the fifth, and that would prevent him from having to testify. However, first of all, he would need some basis on which to argue that his testimony might incriminate him. And second of all, I'm not sure he's willing to take on the political damage that would come with taking the fifth. Also, Phil, if Mike Pence or any witness takes the fifth, then prosecutors can actually use a counter move to overcome that. They can immunize him. Essentially, they would say, okay, Mike Pence or anyone else, you take the fifth. We're going to agree that we're not going to use your testimony against you, and now you have to testify. And that is not optional. That is not voluntary. So we could see a little back and forth here.
Totally. I do want to turn to the Manhattan grand jury investigation into the former president's alleged role in the $130,000 payment to Stormy Daniels before the 2016 election. Yesterday, the grand jury heard testimony from David Pecker, the former head of the company that publishes the National Enquirer. Now, Pecker has already testified before the grand jury. Why do you think prosecutors wanted to bring him back?
So the key to understanding this is understanding, as you just said, this is David Pecker's second time in the grand jury. He was part of the prosecution's original presentation. And then what happened after that is the defense, Donald Trump's team, had this lawyer, Bob Costello, go in. And he told us afterwards that what he did was basically attack Michael Cohen's credibility. And so I think it stands to reason David Pecker was called to rebut that and to try to rehabilitate Michael Cohen's credibility, either specifically as to points in issue or generally.
Need a wall-size map to keep track of all this stuff somehow. Ellie Honig does it. Thanks so much, Ellie.
Thanks, Phil.